case you were wondering, my name is Shauna. I like trash TV, and I'm just a queer girl who wants to make a video, so here I am. I just want to add a preliminary trigger warning for these topics as they will come up later. Now, back to the video. So what even is the ultimatum? The basic premise of the show is that there are 5 couples. One half of the couple is ready to get married. The other half is not. The only remedy for this problem, for some reason, is for them to go on the show, date other people for a week, and then engage in trial marriages with the new person for 3 weeks. After those 3 weeks, they reunite and try out their hand at their own trial marriages for 3 more weeks. After 6 weeks, they must decide whether they want to leave engaged together, leave engaged to a new person, or just leave alone. You must be wondering, who would even sign up for this show? This season features 10 queer people desperate for love in their current relationships. Here's the cast: Mal and Yoli, Vanessa and Xander, Aussie and Sam, Ray and Vanessa, and Tiff. You might have noticed that I haven't mentioned half of one couple, and there's a reason for that. Mildred was arrested for domestic violence during her partnership with Tiff after the show. And so, because of her current actions, I just don't personally feel comfortable mentioning her beyond where I have to in this video. With that being said, we're now ready to get on to the flaws of this amazingly horrible show. Also, I want to preface this by saying that I know shows like this are heavily edited and produced for specific outcomes, so I'm not commenting on any of the participants personally at all. Instead, the focus of my complaints and comments are on the personalities being shown and Netflix of the production. Okay? Okay. For a show that is focused on queer relationships, it is astounding that Netflix never included the pronouns for any of the people involved. Going into it, you would assume that everyone used she, her pronouns because that's all you heard throughout the season. 4 out of 10 of the participants actually used pronouns other than she, her. There's rampant misgendering throughout the season, and I honestly couldn't tell you if it was purposeful or just ignorance. Either way, it's not hard to include pronouns next to a person's name. In fact, I'm doing that throughout this video. I just feel like Netflix dropped the ball big time on that because identity is a huge part of some of these people's lives, and there should be no space for allowing misgendering, if at all possible. If you had asked me 3 weeks ago who Joanna Garcia Swisher is, I wouldn't have been able to tell you. In fact, I'm still not really able to tell you. All I know is she was chosen as the host of the show, she is an actor, and she's not queer. On her Instagram, she mentions being an ally, which is great, but I just feel like Netflix could have chosen someone within the community because this is the greatest time to do so. The only complaints I have for Joanna personally as a host is that she didn't really have a presence on the show. She was barely shown throughout the season, and then on the reunion when she was shown more, she didn't ask any good questions. It kind of feels like she could have not been there and nothing would have been different. A lot of the cast could have done well with a journal or therapy before coming onto a show like this, but that wouldn't have made good TV. My first complaint is Vanessa. She comes off as manipulative, full of herself, and meddling many times throughout the season. She also mostly speaks in statements beginning with I, me, or my, no matter what the rest of the sentence has to do with. She just seemed like the major drama starter of the season, which made her appear as the villain. And I will admit, I didn't like her from the beginning, and I still don't really vibe with her, but my perception of her has definitely gotten a lot brighter over time. While we're on the topic of Vanessa, we can't forget about her biggest hater, Lexi. Most of Lexi's camera time was focused on how much she hated Vanessa, which at first was super valid. Vanessa wasn't on there to get married, and she admitted it. She admitted that her main reason for coming on the show was because she kind of knew Xander wouldn't move on, and so she felt really secure in that. But then after a while, Lexi turned that hate for Vanessa onto her partner, Ray, because Ray was partnered with Vanessa and happened to get intimate with Vanessa. And I think where Lexi really fell short was where she tried to guilt Ray on the fact that they got intimate by saying, I have to tell my family about it, and I have to tell my grandpa about it. Why would you tell your grandpa about something that he might not even watch? It just came off as really insincere and like Lexi wanted to have a vendetta against somebody. Another cast member, Yoli, was caught in several lies throughout the season, and it seemed like she wanted to make another person a villain, mainly Vanessa, despite there being very little interactions shown between them on the season. It also just kind of felt weird seeing her try to balance Mal and Xander near the end, mostly because of how much Mal was trying to support her throughout it all. And then there's Aussie. Poor Aussie. It felt like Aussie was just trying to get out of any hard conversations that there possibly could be. And I totally understand it. It just seemed like Aussie wasn't supposed to be on the show. The biggest failure that Netflix allowed is revealed at the reunion. You find out that some of the couples were no longer together, and that some drama happened after the season ended. When it comes time to talk about Tiff and their ex-partner Mildred, you find out that they're no longer together and that nothing really changed after filming stopped. Tiff didn't really connect with Mildred's son, and Tiff mentioned or asked, depending on who you talk to, that Mildred pay 2/3 of the rent because Mildred and her son were living in the home. All of that seems mundane until Mildred mentions that she had been arrested for domestic violence towards Tiff. Mildred admits this by saying,
obviously, as you all know, we had a very tumultuous relationship. It was a roller coaster. There was a lot of ups and downs. You know, it's really hard for me to say it. You know, I was arrested. I threw a picture frame and I broke it, and the glass shattered everywhere. And I threw a peg gate at you, and it was really heavy. At the same time, I was grabbing all of your clothes from the closet and throwing them down the stairs because I really wanted you to leave my home.
The admittance of this left everyone understandably speechless. But the real question is, why did Netflix allow Mildred onto the reunion in the first place? I'm sure that it was common knowledge that this happened, because if they didn't know, they're already dropping the ball. But despite that, Mildred admits this and causes Tiff to have basically a breakdown where Tiff admits that they feel gaslit and like they're being triggered again by being in the same room as Mildred and having this conversation happen, to the point where Tiff leaves the reunion altogether. What shook me was that Yoli decides to take up hosting duties and start trying to hear Mildred out. She interrupts and says, well, that's not what she said, or she just admitted to that, or like, how are you, Mildred? Do you need water? And it just seems like Yoli is apologizing or at least condoning what Mildred did, even though what Mildred did was non-condonable. Also, I want to point out that if this had been a man being aggressive towards a woman, or a masculine being aggressive towards a feminine, that this would have been handled so much differently by Netflix, and I'm sure of it. And I think that that brings up a big conversation of why it was treated this way and why no one seemed to really speak out against what Mildred did, except for maybe 2 people, which were Aussie and Sam. It just is sad that Netflix allowed this, and that Netflix never really spoke about it past that. In case you're asking, why does this matter? It matters because this show is the closest we can get to multiple realities in a sapphic lifestyle currently. It also provides a better lens into queer lifestyles and helps us answer a lot of questions. Questions like, what is wrong with the current response to domestic violence within these forms of relationships? How can we better provide help to relationships that don't know how to help themselves? I just feel like Netflix has a great opportunity on their hands to continue providing entertainment, but also being real about life as it is. Okay, that was a lot. Bye.